In the beginning, before time itself existed, there was only God. He had no beginning and no end. He was not created. He is the creator of everything, eternal, all-powerful, and beyond human understanding. Then, God created the heavens and the earth. On the sixth day, he created mankind in his own image, Adam and Eve. They were pure, without sin, living in perfect relationship with God in the Garden of Eden. But that perfection didn't last. Temptation entered, and humanity fell into sin, changing the course of history forever. Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. Driven by jealousy, Cain killed his brother, becoming the first murderer. As generations passed, sin spread across the earth. Violence and corruption filled the world, so God chose to cleanse it. But there was one righteous man, Noah. God instructed him to build an ark. When the great flood came, Noah, his family, and pairs of animals were saved, while the rest of the world was wiped away. Through Noah's sons, humanity began again. Later, God chose a man named Abraham. He called him to leave everything behind and follow him. God made a promise that Abraham would become the father of a great nation, and through him, all nations of the earth would be blessed. Even when it seemed impossible, Abraham believed. His son Isaac was born, then Jacob, who had 12 sons, the beginning of the 12 tribes of Israel. One of them, Joseph, was sold into Egypt, but through God's plan, he rose to power. Eventually, his entire family moved to Egypt. Over time, they became slaves. For 400 years, the Israelites lived in oppression until God raised a leader named Moses. Through miracles and divine power, Moses led them out of Egypt toward the Promised Land. But the journey that should have taken weeks turned into 40 years. Why? Because of fear, doubt, and disobedience. Only a faithful few would enter the land God had promised. After Moses, Joshua led the people into the Promised Land. But after his death, Israel entered a time of chaos, a cycle of sin, suffering, and temporary deliverance known as the time of the Judges. Eventually, the people demanded a king. First came Saul, who started well but fell into pride. Then came David, a man after God's own heart, who established a strong kingdom despite his failures. After him came Solomon, known for his wisdom, who built a magnificent temple, but later drifted away from God. After Solomon, the kingdom divided into Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Both kingdoms slowly turned away from God. Prophets were sent to warn them, to call them back, but they refused to listen. So judgment came. The northern kingdom was destroyed by Assyria. The southern kingdom was taken into exile by Babylon. Jerusalem was burned, and the people were carried away. For 70 years they lived in captivity. But God had not forgotten them. They returned, rebuilt the temple, and restored their nation. Yet over time, their hearts again grew distant from God. Then came 400 years of silence, no prophets, no messages, until everything changed. Jesus was born. In Bethlehem, under Roman rule, God entered the world as a human being. Jesus lived among people, teaching, healing, feeding the hungry, giving sight to the blind, and hope to the broken. He revealed God like never before. But his mission was greater than miracles. He came to save humanity. Jesus was crucified, carrying the weight of sin on the cross. It seemed like the end. But 3 days later, he rose again. Death was defeated. Before ascending to heaven, Jesus told his followers to wait for power. Soon after, the Holy Spirit came, and the church was born. The message of Jesus began to spread rapidly. One man, Paul, who once persecuted Christians, became one of the greatest messengers of the gospel. He traveled across nations, facing hardship, imprisonment, and persecution, but never stopping. Churches were planted, letters were written, faith spread across the Roman Empire. But it wasn't easy. Under Emperor Nero, Christians faced brutal persecution.
Many were executed. Among them was Paul himself, who gave his life for the message he once tried to destroy. Over the next decades, the New Testament was written, documenting the life of Jesus, the growth of the church, and the hope of the future. The Bible is not just history. It is a story of creation, failure, redemption, and hope. And that story is still continuing today, because the message of Jesus didn't end, it was passed on, and now it has reached you.